Hello, welcome to Road.cc. I am joined by Dom Mason of Mason Cycles, of course, and we have here the brand new Resolution2. Now, the first Resolution, as all your bikes do, reviewed very well at Road.cc, and just tell us what's new in the new bike.
Well, it's rather than being a complete new bike, it's evolved from the first version, and one of our things is ride-driven design, whereas we are watching what people are doing, watching how they're using the bikes. We're passionate about being really in touch with the customers, and so what we noticed was that I started off trying to do the ultimate four-season bike from metal, and our whole thing has evolved, whereas we're seeing people using these to cross continents and put packs on them and do ultra distance riding, and so we have listened to them and evolved with them, and this kind of represents what we've learned along the way.
One of the big changes with the Resolution2 is, see, it's now fully thru-axle. So can you just tell us a little bit about the process of that, how that came to be from the quick release system?
Yeah, well, when we started it was 2014 when we started, and actually I wasn't going to do rim brakes, so we started off, these were always going to be disc brake bikes because of the usage that we're going to be for, which was, it was quite obvious we didn't want to be trying to grab dirty alloy with rubber blocks. You know, it's just, we're making progressive cycles, and so it's always going to be disc brakes. So the first bikes had disc brakes, and we tooled up for our own fork, which was the Aperture fork. And so it was QR both ends with disc brakes, and we did clever things with the dropouts to resist the braking forces at both ends, and that was great, and we had the ride quality we wanted, and it all worked perfectly. And so then things moved on, and thru-axles became, I won't say fashionable, they did become fashionable, but actually because we are ride-driven design, I always like to wait until it becomes truly viable to use it for a good reason, and so it makes a huge amount of sense to have thru-axle up front, because it ties the wheel in really securely, and it resists braking forces perfectly, and the wheel's positioned exactly every time you put it in and out of the bike. So we went quite quickly to thru-axle at the front, and with that came flat mount, because that was the standard where everyone was going to. So the Aperture 2 fork we completely retooled, we altered the shape, we gave it more clearance, we gave it flat mount capability, and we gave it a 12mm thru-axle.
And that appears on your definition bike as well, Mark?
Yeah, so it's the same for the definition, the fork's the same for the definition, actually the geometry is the same for the definition and resolution. And the ride quality of the fork and the way it enhanced the bike was brilliant. So we went quite quickly to the definition. We went with thru-axle flat mount on the rear with that. We developed our own dropouts again. Didn't want to take anything off the shelf.
And now you are happy. The part you've got now is it's made in the UK.
Yeah, that's another thing I really wanted to do, because because I wanted to work with these passionate people in Italy, tiny workshops in Italy, to develop something really progressive and modern. There's something really interesting for me about that, and also working and getting my fingernails dirty and holding tubes, and you know, you don't just send them a drawing and get a product back, which works fine, but you know, I go to the workshop and I'm holding tubes, and we're putting a wheel in and we're putting a crank, and they're saying okay, and they're drawing a mark on it with a crayon, and they're going away and they're bending the tube and shaping a tube. And
so back to the dropouts, where are they made?
Well, keeping with with my wish to work with people in Europe, so we searched around, tried loads of different ideas, and then I noticed Bear Frame Supplies, who are a UK machine shop, producing some really nice high quality machine steel dropouts. They didn't have exactly what we wanted, but they were starting to work on flat mount thru-axle dropouts, and so I spoke to them there, and I said, look, we've been trying for ages, can't quite get it right. we really want to make something for this Resolution, and it'd be great to work together with you. And so we started just pushing ideas backwards and forwards, and so instead of starting completely from scratch, we worked with him on an existing idea, and basically there was we needed to work in a certain way with our particular stays, and I think we can talk about. I can show you the little 3D prototypes and so on, but and there were certain things which weren't quite right with the way he'd started on it for us. So to make it work as a package, work for a Mason steel frame, work with the latest flat mount components, and also from our point of view, we sell frames, so people have to be able to build it up. It's no good having to have specialised tools to finish stuff off with. Yeah, so actually it was a really good experience. We worked with them. It worked beautifully. Their machine work, which we can show you in a minute, is absolutely fantastic and kind of enhances the frame. Because I was worried that it would come out, it'd be the most modern standard, but it wouldn't be a Mason frame anymore. But actually now looking at it against the version 1, I'm really pleased with it, and there's some really neat little features which came out of the process which I didn't think would come out of it, and it's fully better.
So Dom's also bought us a frame as well, just so we can go over some of the finer details. So just run me through anything that's new with the bike.
Actually, I always start at the front with bike design. It's always a good idea to start with the fork, because it takes a long time to develop, and then it's good to build the bike back off the fork. Kind of up from the wheels and back from the fork is the kind of thing that I try and do. So the fork, when we retooled for this fork, we put in more tyre clearance, because we noticed that people, 28 was like, whoa, big, that's a big tyre when we started in 2014. By the time we retooled for this in 2016, I think, tyres have grown, so we put more tyre clearance in, because people were wanting to run 30 plus. So the fork, you can get, let's say 32 with a mudguard. Okay. And we know people put 33s in, like a gravel file tread gravel tyre.
So you can get a gravel, easily get 33mm gravel tyre.
Yeah, well, it's 32, 33, depending on what's stuck to the outside of it and what wheels you're running, but it'll fit that. So that's one of the reasons I completely retooled, because I thought, well, if we're going to do this, then I'm not going to. You can put new tips on, because the mould's in parts. But we thought, well, let's change the shape, let's add more clearance. It's obviously through axle flat mount. We kind of developed our own little system, which we call the F-stop axle system, which was, once again, came from, I wanted the bike to be an investment. So the only real wearing part is where the axle goes through. So it's fully replaceable on this. So you can't, the fork will never become redundant. And then the axle is, the F-stop idea is that you can adjust the threaded portion of the axle, so you can always position this as it beds in. It's not going to end up in a horrible place like this. Yeah. So you can always adjust it and put it in your favourite place. Yeah. Because we know what cyclists are like. This has to be like 10 degrees up. Absolutely. Or something. Yeah. So the fork followed our ideals, and so coming through to the frame, we looked at it in that. What are people doing with this frame? Where are things going? What do we want to do? So we increased the tyre clearance here. So the original ones had slightly straighter stays, and it was probably 10mm narrower here. And so we increased the bend and put a wider bridge in here. Actually moved this up a little bit as well, so it gives you more, for tyres with a bit more aspect ratio, a bit higher. We moved this up. We increased the tyre clearance here, and we moved the bridge back a little bit. So it's not dramatic stuff, but it's just, if you're going to live with this bike and then you want to put larger tyres in, and then your tyre rubs on the bridge and you can't fit a mudguard on, then we've blown it. So it's no good saying, oh yes, you can put large tyres in, but then you forget that, oh dear, so it's kind of, it's fundamental stuff, but it's easy to forget that kind of thing. So we kept our, what we call the D-form down tube. So it's like a D shape in sections, flat at the top and curved underneath. And it's tall at the front and narrower, and it's wide and flattened at the BB, so it gives a very stable BB, almost like carbon-like stability for the BB because of the power wastage.
Yep.
So also I know that I like to keep it flat here, and I don't like the top down tube to come up the seat tube, because one, it gives you a very wide weld here, and two, in the past I've seen that it can lead the seat tube to crack if you if you have an oversized down tube and it comes up here. So it's much better to keep it as low as possible.
Yep.
And wide. So there's all that. Then through to the back, I was really passionate about keeping these tapered hourglass stays. One, for heel clearance, two, because you can see they're very deep here for power transfer, and then they're flat here for tyre clearance, and they taper right back for response and ride quality. And so this was one of the things which held me up on doing the back end. I didn't want to just weld this lump in. So we've managed to retain that. We've now brought the Di2 up instead of out through here. We've brought the Di2 porting through here with this nice diamond shaped reinforcement, which echoes this.
Yeah.
And then we get to the whole new dropout system at the back.
Okay, so are there any other changes to the what else has changed on the frame?
More detailed changes, like because we noticed the usage of people were going further and further and further on it, and also because we say this bike, we call it a multi-surface bike, whereas our Boca bikes are called multi-terrain bikes. We're not calling them all-terrain, and we're not saying this is like a off-road bike, but it certainly is a multi-surface bike, and people are using it going a long way, and they're hitting some pretty uneven roads and mountains and gravel paths and all that kind of thing. And so because of that, they're putting the biggest capacity bottles on here. And so one detail change, it's fairly subtle, is that these eyelets here are now reinforced, because I was thinking if people are going a lot further using high capacity water bottles, which weigh a lot, and they're doing this, we don't want it to start a stress point here and cracking.
Okay.
So all the new Resolution frames have these neat little reinforced bottle mounts. We don't need them on here because this is a much burlier tube. So that's a really nice little detail, which ended up, once again, looks nice.
Great, yeah.
So there's that. And then the really big thing, which we keep talking about, are the dropouts. So this is the finished version of the bare dropouts. And you can see that, they perfectly taper into the stays. The Italian makers do a lovely job of actually making them fit. The finish is really nice. Because it's all welded. Right. So basically, the dropout's brazed into here, and then they tack weld the platform onto this part, and then they get it completely square, weld it, and then re-square it. So we know it's super accurate. We know it's never going to come loose. It's very stiff, and so all your braking forces are coming through a very stiff anchored part. So the braking is as good as it can be, the assembly is as good as it can be. We give it a final refinish before we send the frame out or build a bike.
Yeah.
So from the point of view of the braking, perfect.
And Resolution2's rolling out now. This is a customer's bike ready to go.
Yeah. So it's rolling out. That's a customer order. We've made the first batch of the version 2, and we've got another batch being made in Italy now, and they'll be painted by the end of July, just before they all go away for the whole of August. And so, yeah, it's proved a real success actually. We had that. I had to put it into the background a little bit and concentrate on new projects, and it was always there. And we were working on it. And Callum's been riding a load of prototypes, and then we've brought it back, and I'm really happy with the way it's worked. And people have gone, oh yeah, I've been waiting for that, and they, so we've sold the first batch.
Great.
And now we're on to the second batch, and we've got pre-orders for the second batch.
Okay.
So it's great that people know what we're doing and they're on board, and they, recognise that.
Yeah.
That's something they want.
Well, hopefully we can get our hands on one to review in the near future. So yeah, definitely. Dom, thank you very much for talking to us today, talking us through the Resolution 2. Don't forget to like and subscribe to road.cc's YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time.